What's going on, my friends? Chris here from Money Peach, and wanted to bring on my good buddy Jacob Wade. And I was going to come on anyway to start talking and sharing more information about the financial relief when it comes to COVID-19. There's so many different things going on out there. They're kind of hard to understand what's true and what's not. The cool thing is the guy that I have here right now, Jacob Wade, he has put a enormous amount of time and effort into some financial resources on his site, iHEARTBUDGETS. And so he got picked up by places like CNET, the Plutus Foundation, some other places, as kind of the go-to expert when it comes to everything finances during COVID-19. So Jacob, thanks so much for coming on the show. And by the way, this is brand new, guys, this streaming that we're doing. So I'm hoping it goes well for everyone. It's testing. We're testing this. It's new, but Jacob, thanks again for coming on.
Chris, thank you for having me. Happy to be here, man.
So you and I go back probably about 5 years now. But you have a very unique story. Before we jump in, I just want you to share with people what you've been doing for the last, 2 to 3 years?
It's been about, I think, 19 months at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2018, we sold our house. I quit my job. We sold 95% of everything we owned, packed our 3 kids into an RV, and we hit the road. And we've gone through 25 states, over 20 national parks. We've put a good 40,000 miles under the wheels, and we're still moving and shaking. So it's been a complete change in life and lifestyle and perspective and everything else. But it's been incredible.
So you and I we've talked about this already. So I think right now during all of this, there's these mandates where we have to stay at home, social distancing. I'm here in Arizona. So Arizona, we are now supposed to stay at home unless it's like essential services until April 30th. I know like in Virginia, I just saw it's now till June. So, but you've kind of been doing this for a long time because you're always on the road. Your home is like, you're always at home in a way, correct?
Yeah, we're on day 516 of quarantine at this point. We've been doing this thing. So our home has wheels. We are going to be parked for a bit, but we're sort of used to just being out there, getting out in the great outdoors, and our social distancing physically has been going on for about 19 months. So it really hasn't changed too much. I think the only thing that kills us is we're parked near the beach and we can't go on it, which is killer.
Okay, so where are you at right now? What state are you in?
We're in North Carolina. We're holding down the fort here in North Carolina for a bit.
Okay, and how are things in North Carolina as far as from going from state to state? What have you seen as far as coronavirus? I know, obviously, and the reason why I'm asking, I'm here in Arizona. I'm sure Arizona is much different than what's going on in New York or Washington or California.
Yeah, so we're originally from Washington State. Our family's back there, and so they've been locked down for weeks and weeks at this point already. I have some family that actually work in the COVID-19 unit there at Harborview, and it is a bit more crazy, right? So they're just they're making it up as they go. The stay-at-home has been recommended for a while. I think it was in place a couple of weeks ago, and now they're going another 30 days, just like everybody else. In North Carolina, we came across, and it seemed business as usual, other than people weren't shaking hands, and there was no handshake zone signs in the doors, but the shelves are stocked, and it's not too bad. But I think we're under that same stay-at-home order. The governor put that out, and so it's hitting everywhere, even a place like North Carolina where there's not as many cases or concentration of the virus going on. I think everybody's trying to do their part nationwide. And the White House just announced this morning the 30 days to slow the spread. So I think everybody's jumping on board. Okay.
So now let's kind of transition to, I think there's a lot of people that are listening that they want to know what's really going on. Like how much, let's just start with easy. How much money am I going to be getting? I read that 9 out of 10 Americans are going to get money. So what does that look like as far as how is that going to happen? How are we getting paid? Are we getting a check in the mail? How much is it going to be? What can you share with us that you know for sure?
So for sure, they finally passed what's called the CARES Act last Friday. And that is the big stimulus bill that everybody keeps calling it. Helps small and large businesses and unemployment and all these other things. A lot of people have been focusing specifically on the stimulus checks or the payments that are going to go out to families. And so for sure, people are going to get paid money. And the way that they're setting it up is they've got some income limits. And I know you've got that on your blog. You can look at all the details on Money Peach. But you're getting those I think it's $1,200 per adult. So if you're a single filer taxpayer and you're making under, say, 75K, you're going to get a $1,200 payment. And it's however you were paid on your 2018 or 2019 taxes. So if you were direct deposit before, you're going to get that. They're trying to avoid checks. I think they've been trying to go digital for a decade anyway. But if you're filing with direct deposit on your tax return, the IRS is going to be dispersing these payments in the exact same way. Married couples obviously get double the amount if they're under that income threshold of 150,000. So you'd get a $2,400 check, and then you get $500 per qualified kid. Now, this is where I've been getting a ton of questions. A qualified dependent is going to be a kid that is 16 years old max or under.
Okay.
That is your dependent. Your kid is 17. Even though they're your dependent and you claim them on your taxes, not only do you not get a $500 check, they will also not get a $1,200 check. So it's sort of this, I call it the college student black hole, because there's a lot of kids from 17 to 24 that are being claimed as dependents. So they wouldn't get a check, but they're over the age limit. So then their parents wouldn't get that extra $500. So anyway, details are obviously on your site, but people are going to get paid. There isn't a set date. I know the Treasury was looking at hopefully 3 weeks to start getting those things out to people. But you can go and look up the details and kind of see where you land.
So for those that don't, like, people are watching, they're like, I don't have time to go and read a post. I just want to know right now. So let's just say this. I do know that it's $75,000 or less if you file as an individual, correct?
Correct.
Now, is that adjusted gross income, like after deductions, or is that total income?
Yeah, adjusted gross income, which means some of those above the line deductions, as they call them, will take away from your total income. So say you had gross pay of 100,000, there could be deductions that bring your adjusted gross income down below that 75,000 threshold. I believe on the 2018 return, if you've already filed that, and you haven't filed your 2019 return yet, they're going to look at your adjusted gross income on that 2018 return. If you have filed a 2019 return, they'll look at obviously your adjusted gross income on your 2019 return. And you can find those, I think it's line 8B on the 2019 return. The 1040 form is where you want to look for that. And then on the 2018 return on the 1040 form, it was actually like line 7. Anyway, just look for the words adjusted gross income. And that is what they're going to be measuring it off of. So single taxpayer, 75,000 is the most you can make and still get a full check. And then what they'll do is for every $1,000 more that you made, they'll take off $50, or I guess every $100 more that you make, they'll take off $5 all the way up until the max.
5%.
Yeah. So 5% is going to be reduced from your $1,200 check. So for single taxpayers, that's from $75,000 to $99,000. For married taxpayers, that's going to be $150,000 to $198,000. And then if you're head of household, they did make a provision for that, which means at $112,500 is where you're still get your $1,200 check plus your dependent checks for qualifying children. And then again, they'll take that $5 for every 100 more you made off until it goes down to zero.
So head of household might be somebody that is a single parent and filing it that way, correct?
Exactly. Head of household usually has a qualifying dependent under them. If you're following, there is a small caveat that if say you're head of household, my mother-in-law filed head of household for years and years and years. You can file head of household, but your kids that are your dependents might be over that 16-year-old threshold. So you could be filing as head of household on your taxes, but you still might not get the check for those kids if they're over 16 years old, if that makes sense.
So a lot of people were wondering, is it 17 and younger, 16 younger? I'm glad you clarified. Think of it age 16 and younger. Okay, a question I did have is it age 16 and younger at the time they filed? So would it be like a if you're 16 or younger starting December 31st, 2019, you qualify, or is it current age right now?
So as far as I have seen, and I will be transparent on this, I've gotten mixed reviews on this. And then heck, you go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was based on when your last return was filed, whether it was 2018 or 2019. In my brain, the IRS knows how old your kid is. You put your birth date on the tax return, so they're going to take the right now age. Again, that's where if you have more information, let me know. But that's
there's still some gray area here with that. So let's just give some examples here. And you have a family of, let's say, 5. You have 2 adults. You have 3 children. One of the children is 17. The other 2 children are ages 10 and 8. Okay, so married couple, filing jointly. They have an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 17-year-old right now. What would they be? And they're making less than $150,000 a year. What would they be looking at?
Yeah, so they would get $2,400 plus $500 for those 2 kids. They would not get $500 for that 17-year-old. So they would be looking at $3,400 coming to them.
Okay, gotcha. And those of you that are watching, we can see your comments coming in. So if you have a question, Jake and I can both see those coming in. So please ask. We'd love to answer any questions while you have us live right now. Okay, and then so with that, then is there any limit on the amount of money? Because it's $500 per 16 and younger child, and the child has to be a dependent of yours, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it would have to be claimed on your 2018 or 2019 returns, or if it's a new child, it has to be your dependent, right?
Okay.
So if you're head of household and there's one parent claims every other year or something like that, has to be your claimed dependent.
Okay. Perfect. So, and that makes sense if you're claiming them as dependent. And like you said, there's this black hole, because let's say that you claim your 22-year-old on your taxes as a dependent, but they work, right? They have a job. And so they're not going to get a check, or no one's getting a check. It's direct deposit, but they're not going to get any financial assistance. However, on the flip side of that, mom and dad aren't getting $500 for them per child. So it is kind of that black hole area for that group right there.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. And I don't know why it is that way, but it is. So we hate to be the bearer of bad news. We can't explain why it is that way, but that's the way it is. Yep. Okay. Anything else that you can think of? Oh, here's some questions that I had on our site. I'm going to go through some of these right now.
If you don't mind, I'll do one quick caveat on the stimulus check. If you want to get a little more detailed, you can have as many kids, 16 and under, that are your qualifying dependents, and you get a $500 per kid. There has not been a cap put on that amount. I have seen that once you get over the threshold amounts, so say you're married filing jointly, you hit that $198,000 adjusted gross income, you don't get your $2,400. I have seen that as you continue to earn more than $198,000, it'll actually start taking away from your child $500 credit as well. So,
okay.
So it'll continue to reduce $500, that 5%, right? So $500 for every 10,000 more you earned. So if you earned 208,000 and you had 1 kid, that takes that kid's $500 away because you're 10,000 over, and it starts to take away from that $500 you would have gotten for your kid as well.
Okay, that's good to know, because I've seen some different information on that. So that's really good to know. What about this? What if I had somebody ask me, they said, I made a lot of money in 2018. Okay. And I didn't make as much money in 2019. So basically somebody had said in 2018, I did not qualify for any of the CARES Act, the stimulus relief check. But in 2019, I made a lot less. I just haven't filed yet. So am I going to get, in a better, lack of a better word, am I screwed here thinking, since they're going to go off my 2018 filing, I'm not going to get any money. Do you know anything about that?
So there's 2 caveats. One is, I haven't seen a line in the sand yet. Checks, the payments haven't gone out. File your 2019 return, and hopefully they grab that data. If it's as of when the bill was passed, then they're going to use your 2018 data. But here's the thing. This is an advance on a tax rebate that they're adding to this year. So what they're saying is, we're creating this new tax credit in 2020, which is these amounts for these qualifying people. We're just happy to give it to you right now. So if in 2019 and or 2020, your income is low enough that it does qualify, you will still, even if you don't get paid right now, you will get that rebate on your 2020 tax refund, right? You file your 2020 tax return, you qualify based on your 2020 income or your 2019, that money will still come to you. It just happens to be later. So that's what I'm saying. Okay. Step 1, file immediately if you can, especially if you need that money and you need that stimulus payment now, or if you're not that worried about it, but you know you're going to qualify in 2020 based on your income, just wait. When you file your 2020 return next year, you'll get that money.
Okay. And then the question is, so this is an advanced tax rebate, correct? Or not tax, I don't want to say refund.
They're calling it a rebate, which means here's the money and here it is now, right? We're giving you this rebate now. It's based on a tax credit, a refundable tax credit that is being implemented for the 2020 tax year. So I know that kind of just goes deep. I used to be a tax guy, so like this is like my fun area, but it's not fun to talk about tax credits and rebates and everything else. What it really means is the money that you're getting now is just based on your a new credit that was created. Now, let me say very, very clearly, this does not affect your tax return, your tax refund for 2020. This is specifically something that was created new, given to you. It's not going to take away from your refund. It's not going to take away from your, not at all. No.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Because it's a new credit that was created. It's kind of like if they just created the credit and didn't send checks out now, everybody would be getting this money on their 2020 return. It would be like, hey, yay, It's 2021. I'm filing my return and I get all this money because it's all a brand new credit. So what they're doing is basically they're just offsetting it by saying, here's this new credit. You would get it next year. We're just going to pay it to you now. So now your tax return is going to still feel like normal in 2020.
So no chances of you having to ever pay this back next year then, correct?
No, it is not. It's not a rebate they're going to claw back at all.
What do people have to do to apply for this rebate?
Outside of filing your 2019 return, if that is more favorable to you and you made less money, nothing. They've got your records. Yeah, they've got your records over at the IRS. This is going to be funded like through the IRS channel. So they already know what your AGI is for 2018 or 2019 and your dependents and everything else. So the money will just show up in the way that they paid you previously for your other tax refunds.
Gotcha. Okay. So a question I get all the time is, what if I don't have updated direct deposit information? Because we did read just recently, the IRS says we're not mailing out checks, right? They're just not going to do it. Think about the cost savings for the government of not having to mail out checks. Right. So then what do people do if they're, let's just say that like, hey, I just shut down all my bank accounts. I got new bank accounts within the last 60 days. What the heck do I do? How am I going to get this money?
So as far as I know, you'll have to contact the IRS and get that information updated in your records.
Okay.
I haven't dug into that specific channel, so I'm not quite sure. I know there's a place for like when you pay quarterly business taxes, there's an electronic payment place where you put in information for payments and that type of thing. And I don't know if it's a very similar tool. That's one I'll have to get back to you on because I don't 100% know where that information will be updated.
Okay. I did see somewhat yesterday. Forbes made a little blurb saying there's talks that the IRS is creating like a website where we can all go to and put in our information and update our account information, which makes sense. If they could do that, think about, you'd probably crash the server, but if they could do that, that would be huge. I do have a really good question here. I'm going to put up on the screen here. So Tanya says, so if we have a stepchild and claim them in 2019, would that $500 go to us or how would that work?
Yeah. If it's claimed on your 2019 taxes, that's yours. That is how they're drawing the line in the sand at that.
But the stepchild would have to be age 16 years or younger.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I figured. All right. So let's see. Somebody that asked, is there any way to reject this credit if you don't want it for whatever reason that you know of?
Not that I know of. Nope.
Okay. And I don't see what, again, it's not taxable income, right? It's not going to be taxed as, you're not going to pay taxes on this. So it's a true credit and you're not going to have to pay it back because it's a true credit. So really, I don't understand. If you don't want the money, maybe donate it, right? But if it's coming to you, there's really no way to kick that back. Okay. Let's see. What are some of the other changes? So we've hit everything that I can think of as far as this taxable income. Oh, what if you don't file a tax return? Let's say you're on Social Security. Let's say that your income is lower than the annual deduction. You just don't file a return. What would you suggest they do in that situation?
If you're on Social Security, they've got your records, right? So you've already got government payment records and they'll know where you land and what payment amount you will be receiving. If you're Someone who just hasn't made enough to file a tax return over the last 2 years, 2018 or 2019, I would jump on it quickly and get a 2019 return filed, even if you don't owe anything, just to get yourself in that system. Because I know like I said, for Social Security, they've got your records and details, but if you haven't been filing, they're not seeing you as a taxpayer, and they've been explicitly using the term American taxpayers are getting this payment. Mm-hmm. So even if you owe zero taxes, get a return in to get those details.
Okay.
System.
And like, would you recommend just like going to the IRS website and filling out like a 1040, like they don't have the 1040 EZ anymore. It's all been merged into the 1040, but is that probably the best way to get that updated?
Yeah.
Right now.
Right. Exactly. So just getting a form created and then e-filed as fast as possible. E-file is going to be way quicker than mail, obviously, at this point.
Sure.
So, yeah, whatever the quickest way is.
What would you recommend as far as e-filing? Should they go to a place like H&R Block, or can they go straight to the IRS website?
I'll be honest. I've not directly e-filed through the IRS before.
Okay.
I've always used programs. So TurboTax, H&R Block, whatever your simplest, easiest, free, especially if you're not making much money. I think TurboTax has a free version. There's a few others that have free versions. Whatever you can just get done free and quick, just take your pick.
Okay. So moving on then, so we kind of understand now it's $1,200 making $75,000 or less, $2,400 married filing jointly if you're making $150,000 or less, $500 per child, no limit on children, ages 16 and younger, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the summarizing there. Next thing is, I know personally many people that they are not generating any income right now because they're in some kind of service or business or something where they've been forced to shut down. Not that no one's showing up. They've been told you cannot operate. I'll give an example. I have a friend that he's involved in elective surgeries. That's what that's his business. Well, they shut elective surgeries down, so he no longer has income. I have another friend that has a salon, and in Arizona, we're kind of figuring out is this going to be the business going to be able to stay open, or if they stay open, are there any clients that really want to leave their house right now when they're being told to stay home so they can't generate income? What about unemployment? How does that work? As far as I know, the unemployment is mandated by the state, but the federal government now is going to be backing that unemployment up with some extra money. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the federal government in that stimulus bill is dumping billions of dollars into unemployment, and they're opening up the typical qualifications and guidelines for unemployment. So typically you would need to fit a couple of things. One, you need to be out of work by no fault of your own is kind of the way that it's stated, which means, you were fired or laid off, and at least you were fired for not an egregious.
But what if like you're a small business owner and you're forced to close shop up because of the COVID-19? Would that qualify?
Your employees, yes. For the business owner themselves, there's a whole separate thing, SBA and EIDL loans.
Okay.
But
so let's go on. Let's just focus on employees right now. Then, if you're an employee, you're a W-2 employee of a business, or not even a W-2, you're just an employee. Maybe you're like a freelancer or something like that. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the qualifications of unemployment have opened up. So that includes, and I'll just I've got a quick list here that says what the new ones are. Before that you needed to be looking for work and out of work for no fault of your own. Now it's, and you had to have some type of full-time tenure or whatever and employed for a certain amount of time. Those are kind of no longer required. So now if an employer temporarily ceases operation, like you just mentioned there, preventing employees from coming to work, if you're quarantined or a family member is quarantined or you're no longer able to work, or if you have to leave employment due to a risk of exposure or infection, all of those people now qualify for unemployment. So for example, I helped a family member apply for unemployment because their dental office shut down and they needed to, they were told, okay, we're shut down. It's kind of like a furlough or a temporarily ceasing operation. You now qualify for unemployment. So you go in and you can apply and be approved for unemployment. And they've extended the benefits as well. So it's not just your typical unemployment pays maybe 45% of your regular income week to week. Now this is going to be that, plus the federal government is giving an extra $600 a week to people that are on unemployment. And this is also going to be extended. I think it's up to 4 months of that extra $600 a week. In addition, most states allow you to do 26 weeks of unemployment. So if this thing stretches on and you're unemployed or even still employed but not actually working or receiving an income, you can go up to 26 weeks. Some states it's as low as 14 weeks. This is where that state to state comes in. But the federal government says we're mandating every state give an extra 13 weeks on top of that. So in most states, you could get up to 39 weeks of qualified unemployment. 4 of those months are going to give that extra $600 a week. But you can get 39 full weeks of regular unemployment if you are affected by what's going on.
So I'm looking up the numbers right here, and it says average unemployment benefits in 2019 was $372 per week. That was the average. So you're saying it's $372 per week is the average, right? Every state varies. And then on top of that, it's $600. And that doesn't matter where you live, who you are. The federal government's going to tack on an extra $600 for, and it says here 13 weeks. So am I doing the math right here? I'm looking at almost $1,000 a week on average, if we use the average number of 372 for 3 months.
Yeah, well, and it actually says up to 4 months. The 13 weeks is sort of tacked on at the end of the standard benefits. If they say up to 4 months, I think July 30th or somewhere in there is the end of that.
And it's the time. Does the clock start ticking, the $600 a week? Does it start ticking once you get approved for unemployment, or does it start ticking from the time the bill was signed by Trump on March 27th?
On the 27th, and I think, I want to make sure I get the details right here. They've done a little rollback on the start date of this thing.
Okay.
Give me a moment. I want to make sure.
So, but the good news is, if you do need to file for unemployment, the stipulations for who can file unemployment have loosened, and you're getting an extra $600 from the federal government per week for 13 weeks. So, we're looking at, on average, maybe like an $800 to $1,000 a week window. That's help. That's huge help, right? $4,000 a month. That's not something to balk at. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. And this is where I've been encouraging people to just get familiar and go find your state unemployment website and go apply. If you're affected, go apply. This isn't one of those like, I can go look for work, or, like I don't want to go on unemployment. I'm going to go. This is a unprecedented. Most people are out of work or losing income because of this thing, and the benefits are there. You need to take care of your family. This is the right thing to do. I know that in the past, and I've known people where like getting on unemployment seemed not normal. Like, oh no, that's not something I do. I'll just go find another job. I'd go figure it out. This is the solution for now. Get on unemployment and still figure it out, right? So this is something everybody should go and apply for if you're affected. And this includes, like you said, gig workers, freelancers, self-employed individuals like us could also qualify for this stuff. They've relaxed all those restrictions. Part-time workers, all of that can now, and even if you're still working, but your hours are reduced, you can still get paid for that difference, right? So this is a huge deal, and I encourage everybody to just go look. And so Washington State, where I'm from, has been very on top of it, and they have a whole COVID-19 resource page on there that tells you who should apply, who shouldn't. But if you're affected and you're not getting paid sick leave, or you're not getting paid a regular paycheck by your business that you were working for, you should go apply.
And I agree. And I'm going to say this too, is I think a lot of times we view as like, I've been employed my whole life. I've always had a job. I can't even stomach the fact that I would apply for unemployment. Keep in mind, you did nothing wrong. No one here did anything wrong. It wasn't like you made a bad decision at work. It wasn't like you got in the wrong industry. This is something that no one saw coming, right? Nobody, just think about 60 days ago. No one was thinking about any of this. So if there's any kind of like, you have this feeling here that, oh my gosh, I could never file for unemployment. That's just not me. Put that to the side. Okay. The reason why the government has loosened the stipulations is because you need help. And if you need help, take the help. I would say, don't ever think to yourself, I'm too proud to take unemployment right now. That's not going to do anybody any good right now. Right now is take care of your family and use the resources that are given to you. The reason why we're doing this is I just want to explain so you understand which resources are available to you. And, Jacob, I'm going to share some of I'm going to share the screen here of your site because you got amazing financial resources here available. There's so many other things that were in this bill. There is, and I do want to touch on one more thing because I'm trying to think what's going to affect most people right now. Big one, what's the largest expense we have right now in our lives? For most people, it's your mortgage, right? Is there any relief? And let's really clear up the misconception of what the relief is, forbearance versus forgiveness with mortgage relief. Because I see a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. They call their mortgage company and they're a little disappointed with the answer. So what is going on as far as mortgages and forbearance versus forgiveness? What does that look like for people who know that, okay, my income dropped, I haven't got my unemployment yet, I have a mortgage payment coming up, and I don't know how I'm going to make this mortgage payment? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So, and I'll just say, I'll caveat with that. This is part of the bill that I'm still diving into today specifically. And I might throw some of this at you, Peach. I know you have built an awesome resource and just put out an article on this as well. But essentially, if you have a government-backed mortgage, and there are places to find who owns your mortgage, they're allowing you to do what's called elective forbearance in I think it's up to 180 days of just basically not having to make a payment, and you won't get penalized as far as late payment penalties or extra fees or anything on top of it if you just simply can't make that payment. Now, forbearance does not mean you don't have to make that payment ever. And like you said, some people are getting disappointed because they'll call their lenders and they'll say, sure, you can elect forbearance, but we're going to need all the money right after this forbearance is up.
Exactly.
Which is not necessarily helpful. Now, many of those might be private lenders that have their own programs, but for the public, the government-backed mortgages, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, I think USDA, VA, I think FHA has their own program as well.
They do.
They're allowing you to do this without those penalties. But that's where I might kick over to you for a few more details on who does and does not qualify and what that could look like on an actual, like say somebody called today because it's the first of the month. What would that look like? So
from what we're reading it's forbearance. Forbearance means temporary delay of payments. Keep it in mind. It also means they can't foreclose on you. If you're in a official forbearance, an agreement with your lender, they cannot foreclose on you during the forbearance period. You are not going to pay any penalties or any fees or any added interest. And this is added from the federal government through the CARES Act, is no negative credit reporting can happen. So your credit score is not going to be affected. It shouldn't be affected. So people are calling up, and you said a good point. You said up to 180 days. It doesn't say everybody gets 180 days. It's up to 180 days, 6 months. So if you call your lender and they say, we're going to give you 4 months, don't be disappointed because they are falling within the guidelines up to 180 days. Now, keep in mind, at the end of that forbearance period where you're not making any payments, there's still a principal and interest payment for that month. And then the next month, there's another principal and interest payment. And they're stacking on top of each other. They're not growing in interest, but they're stacking. So at the end of the forbearance period, the mortgage company is going to want a check for that amount of money. So it's not as much help as I think people were expecting. It's just right now kind of a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid. It's really what it is. It's not a really good fix. It's a Band-Aid for now. But on the renter side, what we're seeing is, and landlords pay attention to this as well, it's very much state by state by state. So we put a resource out together that shows every state and what it looks like as far as evictions. So people who are renting right now, they have eviction protection. Okay. It goes from state to state. I know some states are saying when the crisis is over, then we can go back to the eviction process. But if you can't make your payments as a renter, each state, like in Arizona, it's July 22nd. So you cannot be given an eviction notice till July 22nd. And then it's 30 days from that day that you'd have to vacate the property. So that's really big, I think, for renters right now. If you're stressed out about how am I going to make the payment, you have some grace there. On the landlord side, it's just like go back to the mortgage side, right? If you're not getting payment from the renters, then you could go into forbearance with your mortgage company. And keep in mind, for renters, the rent is still due. So let's say in Arizona, July 22nd, your landlord can call you and say, okay, you had that renter forbearance period or the eviction protection period, but now there's no penalties or fees, but all of the rent that was due over those last X amount of months is due now. So again, it's a Band-Aid. It's not a huge fix, but it is a Band-Aid.
Yeah. There are some, and I would say more for the ones that are federally backed, like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae mortgages that are tacking on those payments to the end of the mortgage. So I would just say the number
that would be a big benefit.
Yeah, and that would actually be help. And I would say contact your lender. That is the bottom line of this whole thing. Keep in communication, and as a renter, be in conversations with your landlord, right? This is it's affecting both of you guys. So don't just simply miss your payment and ghost them. Get on a phone call, say, hey, here's my situation. Here's what's going on. Let's put together a plan. And this is even outside of what's going on right now. This should always be the case as a renter and as a landlord. Both of you be proactive with each other and be in communication to make this thing work.
I got a question here from Melissa. She put here, if you have been placed on a furlough for 4 weeks or longer with no pay, would a person qualify for any benefits? What do you think there, Jacob?
Immediately, yeah. That's the person that I helped in Washington State. They were put on furlough. You're immediately available. And let me go back on unemployment. They're encouraging states, not all of them have jumped on, but they're encouraging states to waive the 1 week waiting period. A lot of them say you're unemployed, you still have to wait a week before you can even apply. I know Washington State, for example, they waive that. You can apply immediately. So if you're on furlough for any amount of time, you're missing paychecks, you qualify for unemployment.
I think you might have answered this earlier, but I'm going to bring this next question up here. This is from Kevin. It says, for couples that make more than $150,000, how does that affect the dependent payout? Is it still $500 per kid, or is it prorated because we exceeded the $150,000?
Yeah, good question. And so the 150 is so that you guys both still get the couple still get their $2,400 check. The $500 per kid is on top of that. Now, for a couple, I want to be very clear: adjusted gross income of $198,000 is where the full cutoff is, where you don't get that initial $2,400 check. After $198,000, as you grow your income more than that, then it starts to take out of that $500 per kid. So for example, if you have 2 kids, then you would normally get a $3,400 check. $2,400 for the couple, $500 per kid is $3,400. If you make $198,000 right at that upper phase out limit, you don't get that first $2,400, but you still get $500 per kid. So that would be $1,000, right? Well, as you continue to make more than $198,000, it's going to start eating into that $500 per kid. So the example that I saw, it was from a CNET example, actually, that they said, if you get up to $218,000, that say the 2 kids give you $1,000, that's now gone, right? So from $198,000 to $218,000, it's now going to eat away at that $1,000 until it's gone. And again, that's 5%. So as I think, Chris, you said earlier, $5 for every 100 more you earn is how it works. You lose $5 of your payment for every 100 more you earn over those phase out amounts.
That makes sense. So you're using the example from 198 to 218. That's the kind of the reverse phase out for children, if you have 2 kids there in that example.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
So $10,000 eats away $500.
Okay, that's helpful. I was not aware of that one, so that is really helpful. Again, if anybody else has any questions too, please feel free to throw those in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and we can answer those now. So if you have questions now that you need answered, we'd love to help you out there. Jacob, I'm going to try to share my screen here, and let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. This is showing your resources here, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so let's look at here. So you have, this is iHEARTBUDGETS.net, correct? .net. And if you just Google, I think iHeartBudgets too, you're the first one that pops up here. But you have all of these different resources here, the financial resources, that's kind of everything put together. Student loan relief, which we didn't even talk to today, but we have somebody coming on, I think tomorrow, a student loan expert. He's going to be coming on talking everything student loans that you should know. You have all of these resources here. And if somebody wanted to maybe follow you or get a hold of you on social, Jacob, where would be the best place that they could reach out to you and find out more?
Yeah, so we're connected on social media in a few places, and all of them just whatever the website is /iHeartBudgets. So you can find us on Instagram at iHeartBudgets, Facebook at iHeartBudgets, Twitter at iHeartBudgets. We're fairly active on Instagram, so that might be a good place if you want to connect with us. If you have any questions, if you want to shoot us a DM or comment on any of those posts, is a great place to find us.
All righty, my friend. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. This was helpful for me. I think this was helpful for those that are watching. We have one last question. It just came in, so we'll answer this really quick. I think this is going to be a good way to end here. But will we get the full $1,200 or will it get taxed? That's if you're making $75,000 or less, and you're making $75,000 or less. And is that going to be $1,200 if you're flying single? Is it taxed? How does that work?
Yeah, this is tax-free payments. So it is not taxed. You will get the full $1,200.
Awesome. Jacob, man, thank you so much for coming on. This was extremely beneficial for me, for everyone watching. We really appreciate you. And I would definitely say check Jacob's site out, iHeartBudgets.net. I know Money Peach, we've put a few resources together, but we're nowhere near the level that Jacob's done. So check out his site. I'm going to start linking to him in some of our posts as well. And we'll put some links below these comments here to Jacob's resources. I'll get those out as soon as we're done here. Thanks, guys, so much for being here. God bless. Take care, and we'll see you guys soon.